Let's go over here and go. Okay, everybody, welcome to the Community and Economic Development Grant Program Grant Workshop. And this is for the 2021-22 year. And it's going to be presented to you today by myself and Christy Peter. We'll do a quick introduction in a second. I put in the chat, if you don't have the chat window open, if you could do that and enter your name, title, and organization in the chat box. That's how we're going to be able to know who was here, so that if you do submit a grant, you'll get those those bonus points for attending the workshop. So quick introduction to I'm Paul Skidema. I'm the Executive Director of the Economic Development Alliance of Lincoln County. And our organization has partnered with Lincoln County for quite a number of years to assist with this grant program. Our board of directors review and score the grants. And then in our early December board meeting, they discuss those recommendations, kind of put together a formal recommendation that goes to the Board of Commissioners for the final decisions. So my job is really to kind of herd the cats, make sure the applications, when they get to me, get in the format for my board to utilize, and to be an advocate to the applicants to help you guys make the best grant possible. But I get no vote on the yay or nay of the grants. So Christy, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Chris. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm Christy Peter. I'm the Executive Assistant for the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners. I operate three county grants cycles for the board. Yeah, that's me.
Excellent. And we're going to hold off on doing a round robin introduction just to respect your time. And because I don't want to go I don't want to go past the hour. This meeting's recorded, but you have to be here to get the bonus points, as I said. And what we're going to start off with is
Did you press record?
Pardon?
Did you press record?
Yes, thank you. Excellent. So what our itinerary is today is there's going to be a quick overview of the process and timeline that Christy is going to give to you. And she's going to kind of walk you through the online application, because it's a little bit of a new tool for this year. I'll kind of talk through the new, larger, bigger dollar single grant, so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on there. And then we're both going to kind of hit on some rules and clarifications. I'll kind of go over the scoring rubric and hopefully give you some hints and tips as far as what our board is looking for in the grants and what things kind of stand out to them. And then a short little overview on some ways to make your application sound and sing the best possible way. If you're an experienced grant writer, it's going to be pretty simple and basic. And I'll have a grant or a little cheat sheet that I'll put up a link to the PDF a little bit later. So really that's our agenda for this afternoon. And as I said, one of the things that you guys probably all know when you looked at the scoring rubric is that if you attend this workshop, you get a couple extra points on your grant application. So that's cool. And it's also just to help you guys deliver the best application possible to get the best results. So as far as an overview of the process and the timeline, Christy, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, sure. So November 3rd, what does that fall on this year? Wednesday at 5 o'clock, the grant portal will automatically shut off. So you won't be able to access it after that. If you need to, for any reason, you can contact me directly at my email, and I'll put it in the chat. And let's see, then once all those have been submitted, Paul distributes those to the Economic Development Board. and they have a month to review all of your applications. And after that point, what they'll do is they will come up with their scoring and they provide that back to me, which I send over to the commissioners. And the commissioners will review any of the applications that they have any questions on and reach out to Paul and I for any kind of clarification. And they will they'll be formally presented to at their board meeting on December 15th, which is a Wednesday. And that will be at 10 o'clock. And I'm going to confirm the date right now. Yes, so 10 o'clock on Wednesday, December 15th. That will be the initial discussion on the economic development recommendations and the whys. The board will then come back for final decision on December 22nd at 10 o'clock a.m. And at that time, an order will be signed off on distributing those final awards. After the order has been signed off on, my office will mail out award letters to those recipients. And after that, about a year later, October, November timeframe, you'll be submitting your final report on the grant award. We will have established at that time, it's not ready yet, but another online portal for you to do that. So you won't be sending those in paper format or email format anymore. You'll actually have that where you'll go online, enter in the blank fields, and attach any documentation that you have to support that.
And then, one thing we kind of wanted to note with the there's that single larger award, and that awardee wants an additional kind of reporting thing. They will be giving a presentation to the Board of Commissioners in the October-November timeframe next year. As far as the online application, Christy, you want to take us on a tour and go ahead and share your screen if you want to, and I'm sure you've all looked at this.
So screen 2. Okay, so once you sign on and you've created your login.
Did you sign up, set up? There we go. Ta-da.
Okay,
Excellent.
so once you sign on and you register your email account, you can go in and enter your name of your organization, your mailing address and city, your primary contact person for the facilitation of this grant. So anyone that we need to contact if we have questions, follow up to be able to follow up with you. The title of your project, the total project budget, and then if you're going to be selecting, you have to select one or the other. You can't select both. You have to choose that you're either going to apply for the single project grant or one of the smaller award grants, which will be multiple of those. Your project summary. Now these are limited to 150 words. And your project description. And it has a brief overview of specifically what they're looking for as far as description goes. They're really looking for economic impact on that. So your project budget. Now with this project budget, you can go ahead and include, because I do see that in the application, we don't actually have, we have the total project budget, but we don't have a specific ask for that smaller project award. So down here, if you're applying for the smaller project award, you're going to want to list the Lincoln County Economic Development Grant as your source of funds, and then the amount that you've requested, $12,680.
The maximum there is 15,000 in the smaller grant. That's the most that you can request from this Lincoln County grant program.
Mm-hmm. List out your anticipated expenditures for the project and other funding and collaboration that will be applied to the project as well. And then here, if, non-financial climate collaboration, things like that, which Paul will go into deeper as far as when he's writing an effective application. Your viability. And your start and completion date. And then your signature can be signed off by, so your contact person can be you if you're not the president or whoever is authorizing the application, and then have that individual sign off that on this application. And then your nonprofit tax ID also with that. I believe that's it. It's super self-explanatory and kind of created to be easy to navigate. Again, if you have any questions, though, you can feel free to reach out to me.
And one thing to kind of point out on the sources of other funds, that gives you an opportunity. It's that next section there, where if your larger project, say you're applying for a grant somewhere else for some of those funds, you could talk about the status of that, like that you've applied, or that you applied and were rejected, or you applied, you got it, or there are funds coming from your organization or somewhere else. But it gives you the chance to kind of build the whole funding picture there of what it looks like for your larger projects. And some projects are as simple as, we need to build this ramp and doorway for ADA accessibility, and we're putting in $2,000 and we're requesting $4,250 from the grant program. Or it might be a much larger project, $60,000, $70,000 project with a lot of participants. So that's where you can kind of tell your story there about the financial picture. Any while Christy's got this up, are there any questions at all about the actual online application, just the mechanics of it? It's actually pretty simple and straightforward, and delivers some really nice reports you'll be able to print out from there. The nice thing is you can go in and you can save your application while you're doing it, and it's not until you finally submit it that it's actually submitted and we can pull it out of there. So it gives you a chance that you can kind of work with things. But I'll just see if anyone's got any questions. Excellent. All right, you can maybe stop the share, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this this larger pool. So this is something that's kind of interesting. The commissioners and our board have kind of talked about things about trying to create a little bit more impactful project opportunity over the last couple of years. And this year, the commissioners decided to try this out and basically split the $130,000, which is in the total pool, into $70,000 for the grants as they've been done for the last over a decade, and a single $60,000 grant in the area of broadband, housing, or childcare. And why those three things? I mean, obviously they are they're priorities that we all know are challenges in Lincoln County and along the coast and in the region. But they were kind of made especially important back in last November. The commissioners had a series of economic development listening sessions throughout Lincoln County, north, central, and south, bringing together community leaders, municipal leaders, business leaders, to talk through the priorities that they saw in their region. And those three topics came up as the top priorities across the county. So with this sort of, we'll call it a trial run, a first go round for this larger grant, there could be a single award in one of those areas. So what does that really mean? Well, a couple things. There's going to be a little bit more close scrutinization of that grant application. Those applications for the larger project will be reviewed by our board, but they will also go out to an external subject matter expert for review and comment. just to make sure that we're getting the maximum understanding of what the organization's trying to do. And there's going to be, obviously a little bit more detailed reporting out. But for example, on the larger projects, for a broadband project, for example, they're looking for projects that demonstrate a measurable impact in the affordability or access to broadband in Lincoln County, with a special emphasis on how it applies to using broadband to create or retain local jobs. And if you've ever done any broadband projects, a $60,000 grant does not let you lay like miles of fiber or anything like that. It could be part of a larger project, or perhaps it is doing something like purchasing devices to allow more access to the internet, or a company's or an organization's workers to remote work. What the commissioners really aren't looking for is something that is just a short-term fix on the broadband side. So not saying like, okay, we are going to pay for broadband access for 20 families for 6 months and then it's done. They're looking for something that has a little bit more sustainability there, or a little bit more of a one-time aspect that isn't just go away in time. On the childcare project or category, they're looking for projects that demonstrate a measurable impact in increased number of childcare slots available to Lincoln County working parents. And that could be the creation of additional childcare facilities, both location-based and home-based, or improved pathways into childcare careers, and thereby increasing the number of childcare facilities and slots and providers in the county. So there's some flexibility there. On the housing side, it's projects in this category should demonstrate a measurable positive impact by actually showing that there can be an increase in housing units in Lincoln County. Now, this one under housing has probably got to be either a component of a larger project or some very creative thinking here. But really it's because housing is a huge, big, hairy problem that, a lot of folks are working on, but this may be the opportunity to provide, maybe rehabilitation or flip money for a couple houses, small homes, there's a lot of different things here. The one thing that is kind of exciting about this larger project is that it's really an opportunity to think outside the box and leverage some dollars and maybe try something that hasn't been tried. So I'm really excited to see how this pans out. We kind of ran through all the scenarios with the commissioner. What if no one applies to these larger grants? Or what if we get a zillion applications? We know that there's at least going to be a couple larger applications coming in at minimum. But I guess I just wanted to kind of let you know the sort of things that they were looking for and give you a chance. Are there any questions that you have on those larger projects specifically? And if not, you can also save those questions to the end. All right.
Paul, I did get a question in our chat that I wanted to kind of direct at everybody. A 501c6 organization is eligible to apply. It's technically still a nonprofit.
Yeah, and there's a whole lot of 501c whatevers. There's 501c12s, which are cooperatives. Those are eligible. It's governmental units and organizations that are registered as nonprofits, but with no specificity on, is it, like a chamber's a 501c6, we're a 501c6, it's like a membership organization. Those are totally eligible. Cooperatives are eligible, anything like that. Educational institutions, all of that. So that's actually, that question is a really good segue into our next session, which Christy and I are kind of riff off of some clarifications that kind of percolated to the surface as we were kind of going through the logistics of getting this program in place. One is a little, it takes on more gravitas with this, with these two grant pools, is an organization can only submit one application per year to this grant program. So you can't do an application for a larger grant, an application for the smaller grant, or two smaller applications. It's one application per organization. Another change this year, but it's going from this year forward, it doesn't matter what happened last year, is an awardee can only be awarded every other year. And the idea is to kind of mix things up a little bit and give more organizations an opportunity. There's been some time where there's been some good work done, but there's been awards that have gone to the same organization every year. And we're trying to kind of mix that up a little bit. But if you were an organization that was awarded last year, that doesn't count now. That ticker starts going with this go round. Also, as far as expenditures, when you're figuring out your budget, there really aren't any allowed expenditures prior to receiving that award letter in the end of December. So you can't like pay yourself back for something that was done in November. And that's pretty straightforward with a lot of grant programs, but just kind of keep that in mind as you're working on things. Also, we had a question that some nonprofits are actually larger than just Lincoln County nonprofits. They service multiple areas. Can they still apply for a grant here? Yes, absolutely. But those funds need to be utilized exclusively in Lincoln County. So if it's a project that you're doing, that's going on in multiple areas, that portion of it that the grant funds are supporting has to be in Lincoln County. And also funds cannot be used for just straight operational and staffing costs. These are really project specific grant funds. If you're bringing someone in to do something with some 1099 work for specifically for that project, that's acceptable, but it's not meant to be, basic operational dollars. Christy, anything I forgot on that list of things to not forget? Because you got your finger like, yes, maybe.
Did get another question in the chat. What is the cost share? How much needs to be committed at the time of application? What is the maximum minimum project size for the large grant?
The maximum award amount for the large grant, since there's one single one, is $60,000. We're kind of guessing, and again, we're experimenting here, that most of those applications will be for that full $60,000, but it would technically, according to the rules of the grant program, up to $60,000 for that single award. As far as other funds that are committed or not committed, there is no hard and fast rule of like, you have to have all of these other funds in the door by December 15th in order to be qualify for this. But that's why you have the opportunity in the application to say what the status is of some of those other things. And because sometimes things will be contingent if you're building a little bit more complex project that has multiple components and multiple funding streams in there. So just indicate that, if this grant is being applied for, we expect to hear back, January 15th or whatever that is. And, all that will be taken into account by the reviewers to see if that feels like that is a good fit. Hope that answers that question.
Yes, but like as if like at 60,000 as a portion of the entire grant, you could, or as of the project, you could have a $250,000 project, and Lincoln County's portion would only be 60,000 towards that. You could also have it be a $60,000 total project, and you're banking all your funds on just this one grant. Though, like we said, collaboration is a huge part of this. They want to see you leveraging the funds.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, and if you have more potential sources that can fit on the application, 100%, that's great. And what you could do with that, an additional appendix, what I'd ask you to do on that, because I would have to, and I can create real quickly, with the developer and send that over is an ability to, we didn't add an attachment link to the application because we don't want a whole lot of excess information, flyers, things like that to be added to the grant application. But if you have additional sources of funds coming in, do you think we should have those emailed over to us, or actually should I just go through the developer and have them add a little paperclip?
Well, I think what we can do is when we prepare the applications, if there's some external funds that we need some documentation, we'll reach out to those applicants, because this isn't that, and they can email those things.
There's only 4 spots for
Yeah.
fund sourcing. So if they have additional ones, should they list it under other funding and collaboration?
I would say, yeah, put it in your narrative, and then we can request additional information for that.
Okay, and then so additional questions that we're receiving. Do you want to open up the chat a little bit, or do you want me to continue to relay questions that I'm receiving in the chat?
Yeah, and Dave just had a question in there I saw. Is there a minimum target percentage of match that the reviewers are looking for? No, there isn't. And that makes it a little bit more frustrating as a grant applicant. But what's really, they're really looking for is the maximum impact. And there have been very successful grants that have only been the money coming from the Lincoln County grant program. I will say there is some ratings, and when we get into the scoring in just a few moments, collaboration and other sources of funding do allow your grant to score better, but there is no hard and fast like 20% match or anything like that.
Is there a public rubric for the alignment of a proposal?
As far, let's see, basically the guidance that we've got, and I'm going to stick this in the chat right there. There is a link that's a long link, but that'll get you to the kind of overview of the program that really shows what they're looking for in those larger grants. And it also has the scoring rubric in there as well, which I'll be going over in just a second. So that should hopefully answer your questions. The other thing that Christy and I kind of swore to each other before this thing is, if you ask us a question that we can't answer, we're not going to fake it. We'll say, we'll get back to you, and we will share that back out to the group. And I'm going to kind of zoom in a little bit on the scoring, because that might help clarify.
Paul, can I ask you a quick question before you move on? Thanks. So you said 1 application per organization. So just an example, my perspective, the city of Lincoln City, it can't be per department within Lincoln City. It has to be for Lincoln City as a whole, can only do 1.
Yep.
Okay. And then you said the funding is not intended for staff or operations. So by operations, that includes supplies. It's not intended for supplies for a program.
Well, if it's, I mean, let's do like a hypothetical. It shouldn't be for like printer ink and postage for general office things, but if your grant program is say an event for high school age entrepreneurs in Lincoln City, and they each want to get them t-shirts and some things for that specific event, that would absolutely be an allowable expense if it's specific for that. So under the scoring criteria, and again, this the grants come in and then they get distributed out to our board. There's 13 members on our board, and if you're at all curious who's on our board, you can go to businesslincolncounty.com and click on the About Us tab, and that'll let you know who everybody is that's scoring. So that's you can kind of see who's out there. One of the first scoring criteria they look at is what's the impact of this project. What is the local impact? And that is kind of across both community development fronts and economic development. And, when we're talking about what's the difference between community and economic development as it relates to this grant, there's certainly a lot of overlap. Economic development has a lot more to do with revenue generation, job retention, job creation, bringing financial value to the county. Community development is a little bit more of the softer side of that, but it could be quality of life, it could be support services, it could be basically supporting the community that makes it a more attractive or safer or inclusive place to live and work. So first is just the impact. The next is there is definitely a nod towards grants that have more of an economic development focus than just a pure community development focus. And that's just because, that's sort of what the commissioners have historically wanted, where the source of those funds are. So if you kind of compare, a measurable impact of 7 jobs are going to be created here versus, a park is going to be created here. Those are very important, but there's going to be a little bit more of a scoring bonus on the economic development side of things. That's just the way it's historically been and how they want these funds to ideally work, but that's why there's some flexibility here. Also, there is some scoring bonuses given to collaborating with other organizations or groups in your project. So if you're doing something that is a little bit more collaborative, that there's some, you get a point if there's one other partner engaged, or if there's 2 or more partners, you'll get 2 points on the scoring rubric there. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. And then on funding sources, and this kind of comes back to Dave's question, if you have things aligned so that you have multiple funding sources coming in to do a larger project, that's also something that the reviewers are looking at very favorably. And basically, if the grant is the sole funding source for that project, it doesn't mean it can't be hugely impactful, but there's just no points on there. But you get points for 1, 2, or 3 funding partners to kind of up your score a little bit there. And also that there's an economic impact of the project. Is it going to have a significant impact? It's a little bit different from the importance countywide, but it's like, what is the impact of this grant fund to the project? Is it a but for the funds from Lincoln County, this project can't happen? That means that these grant funds are going to have a significant impact. If it's a $500,000 project and you're only requesting $5,000 from the grant program, that's less of an impact. On the budget side of things, you've got some flexibility there, but basically, is the budget complete and specific? And one of the things that the board has, that the reviewers, our board, has complained about on some past applications is the lack of specificity on a budget item. It's much better to say we're going to use $500 for printing 2,000 flyers to promote this event rather than $500 for marketing. And a lot of that just the more specific that you can be, have all the budget items been included, and do they seem realistic? And we've got a lot of very savvy reviewers who deal with multi-million-dollar budgets every year. So they're going to know if that budget passes sort of the sniff test there. And you get actually pretty substantial 4 points for a very clear and well-researched budget. So spend some time there. And then there's sort of the strength of the project in the eyes of the reviewer. This is probably the most personal thing, but does it have some value? Is it like an outstanding, creative, impactful project? So that's another scoring aspect. Also, if you attend this workshop today, you're going to get 2 additional bonus points right there. We're going to make this workshop available for other folks to look at, but they don't get the 2-point bonus if they weren't here today. And then if you are submitting for one of the larger or the larger grant, but one of the larger grant categories, those grants will be reviewed by our board of directors and scored, but then they will also be reviewed by a subject matter expert outside of Lincoln County in the area of housing, broadband development, and childcare. And they're going to rate their sense of the one-time impact of this project, because we know these funds aren't really sustainable year over year. So what is that one-time impact for this project? What's the strength of the project? That's basically the external reviewers' opportunity to say what they feel like the impact is. And then the external reviewers will give a short written commentary on their thoughts about and reflections on that grant. And those will be kind of scored based on how heavily they support that project and kind of how they see its viability. And again, that's sort of we're kind of interpreting, it's not like a hard and fast score, but it'll give us a sense of whether being an expert, they feel that this is a valid and project worth receiving some funding. So it's really pretty simple and straightforward. And one of the things that I'm going to talk about in sort of the tips to doing an effective application is, have someone not only review your application, obviously for typos and proofreading, but if you got someone in your office who share this scoring rubric with them and have them go through and do a sample scoring of this project to see, it's a pretty straightforward scoring. You can get a pretty good idea of how you stack up, and it'll give you a little bit better chance of how you can actually create a better application. And I guess I'll pause there to see if there's any question on scoring before I kind of go into maybe some of the softer skills of writing a grant here. Excellent. All right, I'm going to stick another link in the chat. And this is I call these things scream sheets. They're basically single page sheet things, but here's a little link to a PDF that we put together on some of the key points that we've noticed, that our board noticed, of the things that make a strong application and the things that actually kind of make a frustratingly hard to get through application. And one of the things that you'll notice in the application online is there are some word counts in the narratives. And that is just kind of forcing us all to be brief and succinct. We've gotten some, 5,000 to 8,000 word grant applications, and, hearing what your organization did 27 years ago on a Thursday is cool, but it doesn't help with this grant project. So the couple of like key pointers I've got, and some of this is so obvious, but it just kind of feels good to sort of reiterate this, is just, review that application online and that scoring rubric and make sure that the narrative addresses the scoring criteria. And just a technical recommendation, set your account up first and take advantage of the fact that it can save your grant as you're working on it. My little pro tip is write your grant in another, like in Microsoft Word or something like that, and then paste that stuff into the online thing, because that'll give you the word, you'll have the word counts, you can use all the cool grammar checking stuff. What I always do is I use a text editor to paste from like Word to the text editor and then into the web to strip out all of that formatting. But I don't think it's really, you'll be fine either way, but that's just the kind of nerdy thing I do. Also, really in your narrative, spell out the need for the grant. Describe what, how this project is going to meet a need in the community and how it's going to make a significant impact. That's really important. And but while you're describing that, be sure to focus in the narrative more on solutions than problems. if you're just focusing totally on justifying a problem that you're going to solve and not enough time on what your solution is, that's going to be a weaker application. Be active about your solutions. And, you know, what kind of riffs off of that is tell a good story. This is a grant that allows you to be very, very creative. We've had some really wonderful applications come in throughout the years, and tell a story that's compelling about what you want to achieve with these grant dollars. And if possible, make it as real as possible. You know, pull in an example of a client or a consumer or a constituent or a citizen or a member that you've dealt with in the past, and maybe solve this problem that kind of gave you either the inspiration for this grant, or you know, the more that you could nail this down and make it real as possible rather than just kind of hand wavy, it's going to make a stronger application. And this sounds obvious, but you would be amazed how obvious it isn't, is write in short, concise, hard-hitting sentences. We don't need a jillion adjectives, adverbs. We don't need a lot of industry jargon or abbreviations. Just be clear and concise. And there's some amazing wordsmiths that kind of write something that feels like Mary Shelley wrote it when we've got some of these applications. But concise is better for these applicants because you want to be as clear as possible. Also, a key thing is differentiate yourself. How is your organization, your nonprofit, your community set apart from the others? You know, blow your own horn a little bit. You don't have to go into everything you've done the last 20 years. But if you're awesome at something, tell the reviewers that you're awesome. They're going to know some of these organizations, but they're not going to know all of them. And tell them why you rock hard. And also target a specific project. We've received a number of grant applications that are sort of everything in the kitchen sink in there, and they're all really good ideas, but a stronger project will be solving a specific, simple problem or providing a simple resource that's easy to understand and not a laundry list of 15 different things going on. And make sure, you know, we talked about this before, that your budget makes sense. And, you know, also just check the math. And one of the things that Christy and I are both looking very forward to is last year, it was the first time it went online, and that was so much better than in the past. But the entire budget was like compressed when we got it on our end to like one single cell of a spreadsheet, and trying to decode these budgets was just like, ah. So this is going to be a lot cleaner for the reviewers to look at your budget. And I guess my last kind of tip here is write your project summary, your executive summary last. Do your grant application first, get to understand it, get to know it, and then you'll know how to be able to summarize that in just a couple hundred words and hit on really the high points that are going to get them excited to read your application. And, you know, really what we want is we want to see as many wonderful applications as possible. And in the best possible world, the reviewers would have a really hard time choosing the awards. And that's what you really want to see. You want to see great things happening out there, and great projects making impacts here. And I think it's just so wonderful that the county commissioners have kept this grant program going through the pandemic, and that it's still going strong, and a lot of really good work has been done. But it's been, you know, I mean, there's all sorts of different things, from doing, you know, purchasing equipment for, like, at the community college, the media labs that you guys have that are open for the businesses. I mean, that's a really cool creative asset that was a one-time impact that's still paying benefits going forward. You know, there were Samaritan got an award to do some EV charging stations at the Newport facilities up here. There's a whole lot of creative things that can be done with these dollars. And it's really wonderful to see a program that takes locally generated dollars. These come from video gaming machines in unincorporated areas of the county that goes into an economic and community development fund. So it's an opportunity for those dollars to go back and deliver some serious hard-hitting impact. And have fun with it. Have fun with it. And I guess I would say right now, we've kind of hit on our essential stuff. Are there any additional questions or comments or anything that you've got for us? I wanted to make sure we had plenty of time for that. I see from Dave Price says they're now recording monthly podcasts reaching parents and employers with those studios monthly. Okay, the school district's doing that. That's awesome. That's cool. Anyone, or were we so incredibly thorough?
Adam, did you get your question answered regarding the rubric comparing the impact across these three for the large grant?
Yes, I did, but if you wouldn't mind putting that in the chat again, that'd be helpful.
Absolutely.
The link?
Yeah, I've got it.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
Yep.
We're going to put those available also on the Lincoln County website where the grant information is available.
Yeah, it's already up there. That's just the direct link to that PDF document, but you can get it from the grant website. And here, I'll give you the page to the general one. And you've probably already seen, everybody's probably already seen that, but just sometimes it's good to have all those links in one place. Any other questions or comments? Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time. Look at us. We are at 50 minutes. That is pretty darn cool. It's time for everybody to go get a martini before that 3 o'clock meeting. We'll be in good shape. Also, both of our emails have been in there, are in the chat. If you have any questions or something that you didn't think about, just shoot us an email. My job, Christy's job with this grant program is to make it as smooth as possible for these great nonprofits and organizations and municipalities to do their best work. And we're here to support you. So thank you very much and have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much.